few nations becoming from a poor country to a well-developed, wealthy country, to an example for other countries. And these nations follow different paths, but there was something common. Two things, in fact, were common. Very strong education and strong institutions. That's why beyond any political jokes and talks in this sense, there cannot be any government but a government whose priority is education. This is, of course, if we in Bulgaria want to change our destiny. And this big debate addresses not only vocational education, but it covers many efforts. We have not finished the conversation regarding the very system of education. We have started some talks, some actions regarding the very entrance to the system at the first grade and the access to the system. And more specifically, beyond the politically correct language, the situation with dual education is very dual. On the one hand, we have a system of state institutions, vocational schools that train students, that educate students, and sometimes these people are able to find their right place, the labor market. Sometimes, however, because if we have to be frank, in many cases they would get specialized education, but it is not really the right specialized education. On the other hand, the businesses, in order to meet their needs, they develop a parallel system of training in a company in order to teach the workers and employees for what the needs are. And is there who wins from this? Who gains from this? Oh, well, no one. Is the dual education system is the solution to all problems? I don't believe it is, but whether it is the right path, yes, I do believe in this. Today you'll have the opportunity to discuss all issues or challenges regarding the introduction of dual education, and there are many of them. For me, the biggest challenge is legislation can be changed easily. There may be various ideas about this in Parliament, but it is not that difficult to change legislation. And we can do this. Financial incentives, although a little bit more difficult, this can also be solved. The most difficult is to generate mutual trust between the educational establishments and the businesses. I do not know how many representatives of the businesses we have in this room, but if they do not want to be part of it, nothing will come out of this idea. We can develop any type of educational forms, but dual education cannot work without the participation of businesses. Of course, I know I'm not so wise or whatsoever, but I want to encourage you to put efforts in this. Was I brief enough? Yes, you have the chances to go to the meeting at the Council of Ministers in time. This was the formula of personal success. He works during the day and reads books at night. Something similar to dual education. Now, Mr. Krasimir Valchev, the Minister of Education and Science, who will be more active in the afternoon panel.
Thank you. Your Excellencies, Mr. Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, I may sound a bit too trivial, but first let me welcome you all for this conference, which is held within the European Week of Professional Skills. I thank the ambassadors of the countries that have been supporting dual-track education in Bulgaria, we have the privilege of being able to benefit from the experience of countries that have been successful in this for decades, and also to enjoy their financial aid. We should use the positive attitude towards dual-track education. Mr. Donchev referred to that. There should be trust both ways, and it is the parents that should trust the system as well. It's true that education over the years has lost some of its reputation, and it was considered not perspective enough, not privileged enough. Now, with dual-track education, we have the opportunity to bring back the trust, and we should utilize all the positive attitudes, and we should draw on them and build on them. And businesses will help us learn by doing. It's a fact that the future is very dynamic. More and more we will have to learn as we go ad hoc. The students that will join the workforce will be learning on the go, learning by doing. This is why dual-track education is the right track, and this will be the key competence that will help us evolve. So this will be the competence to learn throughout our lives, and this is something that we can't acquire by any school subject. I will not touch upon the measures that are to be taken. I'm sure they will be the main focus of today's discussions. Thank you very much for the support, and I'll be happy to join the afternoon session when the companies will be presenting. Yes, indeed, Mr. Minister Valchev, the Minister of Education and Science, will join the panels. Dual-track education is quite popular, not only in the three German-speaking countries, because there are many others. Australia and China are joining in, but usually dual-track education is the emblem for that. The three German-speaking countries, and they're the countries that have most successfully succeeded in providing employment for young people. So this is why we're extremely honored to have the ambassadors of these three countries here, Ambassador Knobel, Hauser, and Salber. So His Excellency, the Ambassador of Switzerland to Bulgaria, Mr. Knobel, will speak on behalf of all three of them. The floor is yours, sir. The two ministers should be excused. They should turn up at the meeting before the Prime Minister.
Ladies and gentlemen,
the Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister, but they are already leaving. They have to go to this Council of Ministers, so I wish them all the best. Dear partners, dear guests, dear Excellencies and Colleagues, eigentlich wollte ich Deutsch sprechen heute, weil ich spreche ja im Namen auch der deutschen und der österreichischen Botschaft, aber ich glaube, da würden wir die Übersetzer etwas überfordern. Und that's why I'm switching now to English. I'm speaking on behalf of the three embassies, the German and the Austrian and the Swiss, and I'm very pleased to do that today. Exactly 3 weeks ago, we were sitting here with Deputy Prime Minister Donchev and our President of the Swiss Confederation, Mrs. Leuthard, and that was for a closing event of the so-called forum process in the framework of our DOMINO project. The forum is, I think some of you have participated there, of course they know it better than me, is a long process of sessions and conferences and meetings, and is a unique example of policy development from bottom up. So it's really an inclusive process with all the main partners, the main institutions, the main stakeholders. And so this is a key factor for the sustainability of the new system, of this dual education system. And it came out with a couple of recommendations on the policy level, and so maybe labor contracts, about curricula, and so on and so on. So this makes it a Bulgarian reform. So we don't speak about the German system or the Swiss or Austrian system here. It's really, we have the 3 embassies participating, we have the 3 chambers of commerce, which is very important. They are also participating, but this is not about our system. It's we are here to share one of the keys of our economic success in our 3 countries, and this is bringing together state education institutions and private companies to share and to develop this dual system. So dual education has found a very great response here in Bulgaria, and really a very positive reaction. We are all proud to be here and to participate in this ambitious reform. We are all proud also the schools are here, the companies are here, the teachers, and also the students. And I think this is the most important, that the students also are proud to be in and to follow this type of education. Last but not least, we have 3 ministries participating, and I hope they are also proud to participate in this reform. But mainly we have the education minister. He was sitting here, and I just wanted to thank him because he is really supportive, and actually he already integrated all this recommendation on policies and reform steps. So I would like to congratulate all of you for these achievements. There is still a long way ahead, but I would like to thank you to be here, to participate, to support this project in the name of our 3 embassies. Thank you very much. Благодаря.
Да благодарим на негово превъзходителство, посланника на Швейцария.
Let's thank His Excellency Knobel. When we consider where dual-track education is the most successful, one should think whether it takes to be fluent in German to be successful, but he showed us that English helps too. So some words from the European Commission representative to Bulgaria, Mr. Zlatev, you have the floor. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, the representatives of the government left, but I'd like to thank them and pay my respect because we know that education is a priority area which is observed and monitored by the European Commission in the course of consultations referred to as the European semester. You know that within this process, on a yearly basis, the European Commission issues recommendations so that the sector could improve and meet the demands of the citizens of the respective member state. I can say that I remember clearly 10 years ago a ceremony held at the German embassy, and it was then that these pilot training centers were first opened in Bulgaria. Their aim was to provide training. So this was the first baby step of this whole new system. And I can see that over this short period of time, a lot has been accomplished. The institution that I represent finds it important that dual-track education system would help young people in Bulgaria to be employable at the job market, because we are in a situation when there is a deficit of skilled workforce. This is And it was the minister himself who mentioned a while ago that this type of education had ceased to be attractive and appealing for some time, but we are quick at catching up with positive initiatives, and the Domino project, being such a successful initiative, has blazed the trail and has showed that this is the way to go. This is the way for young people to find jobs. On behalf of the European Commission, I would like to express our support. I would like to wish you successful discussions, and when next year we meet again at a similar forum, we will be able to report on very good achievements. And I was glad to see that there will be young people presenting later today, and these are the people who have been trained in the dual-track education. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, Mr. Zlatev. I think we are a good example of we both graduated from the classical school, and we had practice in archaeology. So the two of us are good examples of people who work not what they have studied for. So this was a specialized education, but we also received some very thorough training in mainstream subjects as well. So only 3 minutes delay, and I would like to now show you the video address of the Bulgarian Commissioner to the European Commission, Ms. Gabriel.
Dear organizers, dear friends, I'm glad to greet you from the European Commission in Brussels and congratulate you for the European Week of Vocational and Digital Skills in Bulgaria. They say that learning is an endless ladder which we start climbing with the very first school bell and continue our development throughout our lives. The big Bulgarian writer, Jordan Radichkov, said that man is a long sentence written with lots of love and inspiration, but full of spelling mistakes. This is true not only personally for each of us, but also for our professional development. We all owe a lot to our teachers, both in the primary and secondary education and in the universities. These people give us the solid foundation which we must build upon all our lives. That's why I'm convinced that vocational education is not just a concept in the countless documents of bureaucrats, but a precondition for the success of everyone at their workplace. As a commissioner, I have been assigned the topics linked to digital economy and digital society. For years, we've been talking about lifelong learning. And the fast pace of digitalization makes it an integral component of any successful vocational training. Information technologies are penetrating every area of our lives. It won't be exaggerated to say that for the first time in 200 years, humankind is faced by a phenomenon comparable in scale to the Industrial Revolution of the 19th century. I mean the digital revolution, which is already opening incredible prospects, but is also confronting us with great difficulties, which we need to overcome in a fast and efficient manner. Digitalization is not reserved for experts only. It must be an integral part of the basic skills of Bulgarian and European school and university students, of employees of SMEs and big corporations. Still, against this background, 80 million Europeans have never used the internet. That's why I welcome the ambitious efforts of my Belgian colleague, Marianne Thyssen, the Commissioner for Employment, Social Affairs and Labour Mobility, and the specific steps taken by the Bulgarian government in that direction. I'm convinced that we are on the right track, and the national authorities of all member states understand the need of digital skills for everyone. Last year, we organized the European Vocational Skills Week for the first time. It provoked such great interest that the Commission decided to organize it again this year. needs to develop the talent and skills of each and every citizen, and that includes digital skills. As already said, digitalization is not reserved for experts only. It cannot be the privilege of one or a group of EU countries. Together with Commissioner Thyssen, I'm looking forward to the start of the Digital Opportunities Pilot Project, which will involve between 5,000 and 6,000 students in cross-border digital internships for 4 to 5 months. Most importantly, these students need not be from the IT sector. They can come from the humanitarian field, medicine, etc. But the pan-European efforts should go hand in hand with national initiatives. I count on the national digital skills coalitions to come forward with their own ideas. They're well aware of the local realities and know where to put the stress in terms of vocational education in digital skills. Was this the end? Because it stopped suddenly. But we have the key stress from Commissioner Gabriel that when we talk about dual education, it is really important to include new technologies as well. This was the address. Thank you. I'm also very grateful to the 4 ambassadors who participated in the opening of this conference. Now please take your seats in the room. Now I'm going to invite Mrs. Maria Todorova from the Ministry of Education, Mrs. Petya Timova from the DOMINO project, Ms. Sofia Damianova from the Austrian project, Mr. Maximilian Erhard, who will talk about the German project, and 2 school students, Toma Tomov and Martin Garmidolov from the Henry Ford Vocational Education School in Sofia.
Има поне по сценарий и продължаваме в работен порядък веднага. Така, госпожа Тодорова.
Mrs. Todorova, Mrs. Maria Todorova, Director of the Vocational Education and Training Directorate at the Ministry of Education. Thank you. Can you hear me? Dear guests, Your Excellencies, dear students, colleagues, I'm really happy to be able to greet you today at this conference, which we have organized in cooperation with our colleagues from the DOMINO project and the Bulgarian-Swiss program for cooperation as part of the European Vocational Skills Week. You see on the first slide of my presentation that we are part of this European Vocational and Digital Skills Week. You will see that simultaneously with today's event here in Brussels, this week, the launching of this week is still ongoing, and the Deputy Minister of Education, Mrs. Zlatev, talked about vocational education and the future of vocational education. That is, I think this is a great success. Something that the minister said, and also Mr. Donchev, is really true. Vocational education is important. It has a future. Just few words about the program of the European Vocational Skills Week. We started on the 20th of November with a seminar organized by the National Agency for Vocational Education and Training with a topic regarding European dimensions of vocational education, which was part of the European Network ReferNet, which is supported by the European Center for the Development of Vocational Education and Training. But the key event for this week in Bulgaria is this conference, the today's conference, which is also broadcast live. Probably we'll get a link to it so that we have a look at it later and make some important conclusions. There are more events by the end of the week. On the 24th of November, together with our IT partners, we'll open the National Program for IT Career Development. Mrs. Maria Gabriel will be there. And on the 23rd, 24th, our partners from the businesses, the list of whom you will see, will open the doors of their companies. They will invite young people, the partners, the parents, representatives of the community, and speak more about opportunities they offer to all these young people. They will also talk how they became part of the dual education system. On this slide, you can see the promise of our government regarding the development of vocational education and training. Here you can see the goals and measures that the government committed to implement and support in the interest of developing vocational education and training. All this will happen in close cooperation with the business, because without the businesses there cannot be successful education or successful dual education for that matter. Most of you are aware that our directorate is involved in the development of a concept paper on the development of vocational education and training. And dual education is underlined there as one of the key policies. Why is this important? What does dual education give to learners? I know that you're all convinced in the importance of dual education, but we want to continue promoting the concept. So what does vocational education give to learners, both young and adult learners? Well, it creates qualifications, skills, experience that we all need, not only for our professional development, but also for our personal development. Through dual or vocational education, we see a smoother transition to employment. The statistics shows that in the high technology sectors and value-added sectors, people who graduated from vocational schools find better jobs, and vocational education also supports mobility. What are the benefits for our partners from the businesses? Well, the companies which get highly qualified workforce are more competitive, not only at the local but at the global market. Then the development and growth of the economy and society profits a lot from vocational education and training. And now I'm going to talk about this part of vocational education and training, which is developed in the dual education. What is the additional benefit that dual education offers to all stakeholders? Please excuse me for some technical difficulties. For learners, well, we're talking about a very solid practical preparedness, that is learning by doing or by working, on-the-job training. Many companies would rather employ workers who already have some experience in a real working environment. And this is an advantage for the students that graduated dual education. What about some of the key competencies? Our minister already addressed some of the key competence. One key competence, that is the skill, the competence for lifelong learning. In many companies, foreign languages are used, and the students also improve their linguistic skills. Another key competence is the teamwork, the ability to work in a team, which is a universal skill needed throughout one's life. Conflict resolution skills, discipline, and so on. Vocational education and training complements and expands all these key competencies. The level of qualification is increased as part of dual education. This is one of the key features of dual education, because we train our students in existing qualifications. They acquire the certificate, nationally recognized certificate. Dual education is also a good tool for prevention of dropouts. We are also talking about high employability. I'm sure that our partners from DOMINO will give more examples on how the first students who graduated from the dual education schools found jobs by 90%. For the vocational education institutions or establishments, what can we say? Well, it is very important for them to see the results, the outcome, which is based on the personal and professional satisfaction, and also the employability of every student. The best realization of their students, in fact, is to find jobs at the labor market or teach students according to the needs of the economy. Last but not least, the training institutions involved in dual education have an advantage because they can use the facilities and the equipment of the participating companies. Yesterday, we had the first part of our conference. We had received information from practitioners, from professionals, and we understood that at one vocational school, 90% of the teachers, in fact, originally worked for private companies, and we consider this a best practice. The companies, well, they gain because the gain for them is that they get qualified workforce that they can themselves train during the practical training. For the society, the benefits for the society, the ministers and Commissioner Gabriel underlined that dual education is a very successful, maybe the most successful tool to overcome youth unemployment. Now the Bulgarian context. Most of you who participated at the session of the forum 3 weeks ago already got some information about what had been done. So I will present today a very brief overview. We've worked in partnership with the DOMINO projects and also with the other two projects, with the support of Switzerland, Germany, and Austria, to develop a special ordinance regarding the terms and conditions of organizing learning through or on-the-job learning. We also have the Vocational Education and Training Act, which has been amended. Besides this, there are numerous activities included in the strategy for development of professional education and training. So from the legislation, we move on to specific activities with deadlines, people in charge. We just need to update it for the next implementation for period 2018-2020, and we'll continue relying on cooperation with your projects. It takes some time to switch slides. Besides the operational activities and measures, we are also very happy to share with you some of the pilot activities supported by Switzerland, Austria, and Germany, but also the very active participation of the associations of the local businesses in numerous municipalities as Panagurište, Varna, Vratz, Plovdiv, Burgas, Fištov, and Ruse. We also have the forum for dual education, which is a good format for joint work. We also have a national coordinating group, which at a very operational level discusses the most important parameters of improving the dual education system. And last but not least, very successful communication and information events. Also a DOMINO web page where you can see all the achievements of the project. Now the outcomes and results of all these efforts. There is also, as I already said, there is legislation in place. It will be amended. The curricula and syllabi are developed. Capacity is built. There are national dual education experts. There is a new directorate opened for vocational education and training. We have a team trained by the DOMINO project. They participate in national and international fora. The most important outcome is the launching of the partnership schools, businesses. I say launching, but I need to underline that there have been traditions in building such partnerships for years, But within the system of dual education, these partnerships are made more formal, more official, with signing contracts, paying remuneration, and all this has been developing over the last 3 years. I already mentioned the communication strategy, and one more aspect, important aspect and result, that the state participation in the dual education project. When we talk about dual education, well, this is a partnership project. This is not a Swiss project. This is a Bulgarian-Swiss project which supports the development of the Bulgarian education, the Bulgarian education system, and we have national co-financing amounting to 15% of the total amount of the project. Some figures, but our partners will elaborate on them. We started with 2 pilot projects, and in 2016, 2017, we already talk about more than 1,300 students in 23 professions in 31 vocational education schools for this year. On this map, you can see the more or less equal coverage of dual education in the country. What else are we going to do? We know that what we have achieved is not sufficient. We are still in this pilot phase. So what comes next? Well, in fact, we raised several questions and we have started considering them seriously. First question is, do we all know and are we all convinced in the advantages of dual education? I think there is a lot more to do in this area from a communication standpoint, but also give more visibility to results. The more students we have, the more students who get employment after finishing school, the easier it will be to convince the society in general in the advantages of dual education. The partnership and the trust between businesses and schools is another question, and Mr. Donchev talked about it. Now, how to meet the needs of the businesses, not only how to develop the documents, but also how to teach, how often all the documents need to be updated, how to synchronize training in school and at the workplace. Are the key competencies being taught and learned? How to provide training to the young people, not only for a specific workplace or a specific job, but generally for the labor market. So how can we prepare the young people to adapt to the dynamically changing needs of the labor market? How to guarantee the quality of training at the workplace? Who and when and how will train the instructors? How can we motivate and support the companies both with financial and non-financial incentives, because they are involved with financial resources and human resources, so we owe them support. Who is responsible for dual education in a big company and who is responsible for it in a small size company? how to retain prepared professional at the workplace, and how to enhance the capacity of all stakeholders. These are all areas that we need to address in the future. There are areas, and all these areas, in fact, have been included in our dual education policies. The aim being to develop a comprehensive model guaranteeing the quality and achieving large scale. This will be achieved through improving the legislation, creation of a database and platform and register, through the development of a special training program for instructors, enhancing also the capabilities of all stakeholders, creating also specific framework of quality. And during the Bulgarian presidency of the European Union, we plan to report on the Bulgarian contribution to this European framework. And last but not least, achieving scalability in all these areas. In conclusion, I want to underline once again that we can achieve all this only through cooperation. So I wish you all success, and thank you for your partnership. Thank you, Mrs. Todorova, Director of the VET Directorate at the Ministry of Education and Science. Public information that, according to some public information, I see that there are almost 40 VET schools that have introduced VET or dual education, and 17 specialties are included. Well, we'll share more information at a later stage.
We now continue with three specific projects. The three ones that are underway in Bulgaria. The first one, DOMINO, dual track education for the modern requirements and needs of the society. This is the abbreviation. Ms. Petya Eftimova will present the Bulgarian-Swiss project, which is an intergovernmental project. Ms. Eftimova, the floor is yours. Good morning, Your Excellencies, dear guests. I greet all our partners from the schools and the companies that are present today. I will give you a brief overview of the DOMINO project, the Bulgarian-Swiss project being implemented within the framework of the Bulgarian-Swiss cooperation program for developing capacity for dual-track education in Bulgaria. And as Ambassador Knobel mentioned, that the Swiss president visited Bulgaria 3 weeks ago. So this is the picture of a girl who participated in the preparation, in the cooking of the formal lunch given to the Swiss president. So this is a project that should draw on the best Swiss practices, and let's consider how they can be implemented in Bulgaria to build a national dual-track education system. Other goals of the project include developing a methodology for a curricular development for both the schools and the companies, and delivering training for capacity building with teachers and instructors from the companies. The professions that we included as the pilot ones for the introduction of DT in Bulgaria, we started in 2015 with 2 specialties, machine technician with CNC machines and equipment, and technologist and technician for milk and milk products. 2016 saw the inclusion of 3 other specialties: electric engineering for manufacturing, and gas technician and cook. This school year saw the beginning of training for three more professions: automobile mechatronics, industrial electronics, and furniture manufacturing. And we have selected the last four, which will be the last within the DOMINO project: machine technician for welding, thermal and heat energy technician, and electrician for electric vehicles, and catering specialist. We started rather tentatively with 2 schools and 5 companies, but 2 years on, we have 32 schools, 49 classes, 170 companies, and over 800 students. You can imagine the advancement and the extremely increased interest by parents and students. The territorial scope of the project is explained with the fact that there are companies and schools that have their own dual-track education models. They are located in these blank areas where the DOMINO project is not represented. There are 19 projects, 19 cities covered. There are small cities and large cities involved, so it's not only for the large cities, not at all. As I said, the number of companies has been on the rise, and it's quite impressive. There are 170 of them now. 42 of them are large-scale companies of over 250 employees, middle-sized companies of 50 to 250 employees, 30%, and the small-sized companies, mainly in food production and tourism, represent 28%. By industry, the largest share is of machine building, 24% of them. Indeed, our impressions are that these companies are in the greatest demand. So they need staff developed by dual-track education, and there are also companies in the area of energy, industrial electronics, and we have 2% of mining companies based on their origin. We had 70 to 30 of Bulgarian and foreign ones. Now they are 81 to 17. And we have companies from Bulgaria, Austria, and the US. What are the challenges that we have encountered? First and foremost, these are the legislative gaps. And it was mentioned that the Forum for Dual-Track Education came up with recommendations for legal amendments. Another important activity to work on is to more fully involve the local authorities and regional chambers and associations. We have good examples, but they are only sporadic, unfortunately. Another challenge is how to guarantee the high quality of training both in the school and in the company. That is what the instructors train apprentices. We should work on the institutionalization of the activities associated with dual-track education, and along with the Ministry for Education, we should come up with the most appropriate structure who will coordinate the activities after the various projects end. And then we shall continue with our information awareness campaigns and familiarize all stakeholders, not only the companies and the schools, but the parents, the students, and the public as a whole. And together, today it was mentioned several times that we should make VET more appealing and attractive. So what's next? These are the future steps of the DOMINO project. We will continue developing and working out new curricula and syllabi. We will continue offering training to the schools and the instructors. And for the first time in 2018, we will hold seminars with Swiss experts on developing the examination programs. These will be the professional qualification exams, and we will continue to work together with the Ministry of Labor and Social Policy and of Economy, and we will continue to work on our communication strategy using the different channels, the web page of the project the Facebook page, and the YouTube channel that we have. I will be available until the end of today, so do approach me if you need me. Very specific information was provided by Ms. Evtimova. Now let's continue with another project which is underway in Bulgaria, the Austrian one. Ms. Demyanova, the floor is yours, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, I'm really happy that I will be able to present today the Austrian project for dual education in Bulgaria. In contrast to the Swiss project, it is not funded by the Austrian government or the Bulgarian government, but by the Austrian businesses. It was based on the deficiency in or the shortage of workforce. In 2014, we conducted a survey and asked more than 240 companies whether they would like to become part of some dual education training programs, and that's how we selected the regions to start. Thanks to the cooperation of the Ministry of Education, it was possible to put this into practice because legislation changed in 2014 and then in 2015. I'm not going to address all the components of the ordinance because they have already been presented to you by the representative of the Ministry of Education. Thanks to this survey, we selected the regions. One of the first towns we started was the town of Gabrovo, where we introduced the profession of mechatronics. This was very attractive. The businesses were interested, the idea being to attract applicants, and we were able to start with a full-size class at that time. The businesses in Gabrovo and throughout the country, in fact, require, however, mechanical engineers, and in the next years we organized such groups or classes, application. Our project, as I already said, is funded by the Austrian businesses and companies, but some Bulgarian and German companies became part of it as well. Everybody says business should meet education, and I always, however, underline that all this should be student-centered, because even if the businesses and the schools meet, if the society is unwilling, if there are no students, then there cannot be any partnerships and dual education cannot develop. There you can see photos from various trainings and workshops we organize with students. We organize various games even in order to welcome them. There is lots of information provided by the companies. In Gabrovo, we also have representatives of the regional education department, the municipality, the All the local institutions are very supportive. Last year in Gabrovo with the 12th graders, we started this on-the-job training with the companies based on a labor contract and remuneration. So you can see some photos from this on-the-job training. Another important aspect is the role of the instructor. We trained instructors before we started the on-the-job training with students. BIFI Bulgaria is the institution that develops this training methodologies and manuals. They do it in Austria and they did it in Bulgaria. So the instructors received an international certificate and they can do this in any other country. And back to the role of instructors in Gabrovo. The students who graduated and after that started work for the company, well, it was a Bulgarian company. Same conditions, but the instructor who greeted them in the best way and paid lots of attention to the students was the representative of the Bulgarian company, and that's why students chose that company. This year we started in Pernik with the vocational school for economics with the specialty of trade. We also participate in various initiatives like the Day of the Bulgarian Educators. We give them special gifts. In Sofia, we started in the school year 2015-2016. You can see some photos here showing the active involvement of the companies, the fact that on a monthly basis they organize events with the students. Because, as you know, students would go for practical training to the companies in the 11th and 12th grade. But our companies, the companies involved in our project, want to show how involved they are at an earlier stage. That's why they invite students on a monthly basis to their premises. The second photo shows some presentations of the company so that students learn about these companies in detail. On the next photo, these special gifts for the Day of Bulgarian Educators and Enlighters. We teach students to do voluntary or charity work. Together, these are joint events with the partnering companies, and students choose the cause they would donate money themselves. On the left-hand side, bottom, you can see some joint events, the Dual Education Day. We invite future students and applicants, so that they learn more about the school and the companies. On the next photo, you can see some joint lessons. This is a lesson in business communication. That's how companies support the schools with specific case studies, practical case studies. We also celebrate together Christmas. We provide Christmas decoration. And on the last photo, we organize with the 9th graders events for the end of the school year. It again involves presentations, practical case studies. The students really do great at these events. They are looking forward to these monthly events. They learn to communicate, they ask questions, and we teach them to do charity work on an ongoing basis. In Sofia, we also try to organize a class on this new profession for Bulgaria, forwarding and logistics, but since it is a very new profession on the list of professions, we've been unable to somehow reach to the community. This is one problem, and the other is that competition between schools is not always loyal, and this was another reason for us to fail to organize this class. However, the vocational school and the companies did not give up. We'll try to do it next year. And I hope we'll be able next year to report that we have succeeded. All the forwarding companies, logistics companies are very active. In Sofia this year we started with a class in production of bread, bakery and confectionery products, which is part of the technologist in the food processing industry profile. Yambol, another town. This is the fourth town where we are implementing a project. There are various photos showing events, joint events with the students, participation in various initiatives. In Yambol, the partnering company is an Austrian company, but we also have now a Bulgarian partner. When they saw that dual education is already a reality, they invested in a training center for dual education, and the management of the company from Austria came over to Bulgaria to open it, to launch it officially. I think this was a best practice. Gabriel is probably going to follow suit. In Sofia, the partners are also preparing a specialized classroom which they need for their specialized training in trade. You see how partners sometimes are willing to invest more than they're required to, once, of course, they get interested. In Yambo, we have already students in the 11th grade. This type of training is really greeted. Palfinger, the company, provided a special equipment to the students for training purposes, so that they can assemble, disassemble, and so on. Most of the partnering companies also offer to the third best, the top students, to fund their higher education. In Austria, for example, and also in our project, companies prepare students for every type of education and further education. This diagram shows the classes, the professions, the schools, and the partners over these 3 years that we have been operating. We started with 53 students, and this year we have 196 students, which is a good evidence of the increased interest in the students and the society in general. What are the advantages for the companies? Well, Mrs. Tolorova already mentioned them. Companies can, for a short period of time, identify the motivated students, and after they offer them employment. As a trade chamber, we support the companies, we develop various documents for partnerships between schools and companies, between the company and the students. We participate in communication and information days where we talk with students, with parents, and so on. The goal of our project is to provide for a better quality of vocational education in Bulgaria, support businesses to find qualified workforce, improve the image of vocational education, reduce youth unemployment, support the economic development of the regions, and help stop this economic migration to other countries. And these are my contacts, and I'll be available throughout the day.
Sofia.
Thank you, Ms. Damjanova. This was a very informative intervention with two main emphases on the role of the instructors and on the significance of a loyal competition in order for DT to succeed. Now we'll continue with the German project that will be presented by Mr. Erhard. The floor is yours, sir.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, I also would like to give a brief presentation about recent projects going on with the German-Bulgarian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And first of all, I would like to start with the end of one project, one class in UN education. So we had a graduation ceremony in July this year. Back in 2015, we started very early. You can see it here on the pictures. It was a class, another class. These 9 employees are all, or these 9 persons are all employees from out of 5 companies. So these 5 companies have been Kaolin, Sofama Trading, Intrama, as well as Pirintex. And they were trained for the profession in office management at the National High School in Finance and Economics here in Sofia. And it started back in 2015, as I said, for a duration of 2 years. And here in July 2017 now, these people graduated, and you can see the former ambassador of Germany hand out the presentations together with the Dean of the National Gymnasium in Finance and Economics, Mrs. Krasimir. Besides, we are also involved in an Erasmus Plus project, and one project is already running since autumn last year. You can see it here on the logo. It's called AC Forum SME, which is an abbreviation and stands for Apprenticeship Coaches for SMEs, so for small and medium-sized companies. And the characteristics you can see it here. It's out of the key action 3. It's a program out of the support for policy reform, and this project is especially aiming at supporting small and medium-sized companies in getting involved and getting in touch with vocational education and training. It has a period for 2 years. As I said, we started last autumn in October 2016, and now we are more or less in the mid of the project. And September 2018 we have the final conference, and the final results will be presented in this project. Furthermore, yeah, the aims, as I already said it, to create more interested in vocational education and training, especially for small and medium-sized companies, but also to strengthen the capacities of especially chambers of commerce and industry. In this project, there are involved 19 partners out of 13 European countries, so it's a quite large-scale project, and a lot of management has to be done therefore. And yeah, in the end, there should be the development of a network of European apprenticeship coaches. So especially trained people who then can go to companies, but also to other institutions and consult them in their country about vocational education and training. Due to this, we have several activities. So we here in Bulgaria, but also in our other partner countries as well. We are in touch with a couple of SMEs, and we analyze their needs. So what do they need? Because yeah, compared to large corporations, SMEs have minor capacities when it comes to HR, but also to understand the legal regulations, etc. So a lot of transfer of know-how is taking place. And yeah, as I mentioned it before, the final aim should be to create a network of apprenticeship coaches. And due to this, 26 apprenticeship coaches all should be trained in these Erasmus Plus countries. And after the 2 years of the project, of course, still working on the initiative of the topic of vocational education and training. Besides, we also have created a toolbox. I will come to it on the next slide. What's going on now? It's a pilot phase, so end of this year, and then especially the rest of the program, the project next year will be a pilot phase. So we will actively do workshops and going to these SMEs and consult and train them and prepare them for that they are ready to host an apprentice in their company. And yeah, of course, as this is usual for these kinds of projects, in September 2018, then we have the evaluation, final results, and a big conference in Brussels. Coming back to this toolbox, we placed it next to the registration. It's a printout we created with some hopefully useful information about vocational education and training, especially for companies and young people, young apprentices. So in order to get in touch with the topic, in order to raise some questions, in order to get prepared, what should I know about vocational education and training? So you're welcome to pick one up and have a look through it. And for this road, there it is. Yes, and we also have a homepage already created for this AC4ME project, where you can also get some more useful information, because we also do some webinars. So the first webinar was a very general one, how to set up an apprentice or apprenticeship in a company. It's already published on the website, so you can have a look there, download it and review it. Besides, there are other materials like the toolbox I just mentioned before. Also, it's ready for download. And as we have, I think, 13 different languages. We also have it in Bulgarian, of course, but yeah, also in other languages, in European languages. Besides these projects, we just have one in summer this year, another European project under the umbrella of Erasmus+. It's the so-called dynamic project. It's a so-called dynamic project. This is not an abbreviation, it's just a general title of this project. We don't have a fancy logo yet, because as you can see and as you can read, the official kickoff meeting will just be in, I think, 3 weeks, so in mid of December. And here is also, it's not that big, it's a smaller project than the one I just mentioned. Nevertheless, we also have included 5 countries. So there is Germany, Austria, as well as Romania, Croatia, and Bulgaria. And here we would like to also develop some more programs in especially technical fields. And one partner we're working together, or one of our partners we're working together in Bulgaria is university in Varna and schools in this region, but also several companies, and in Croatia and Romania, there we are also in touch with educational institutions, so they are also partners of this project. Here it's officially did not yet start yet, but the aim so far are also to promote vocational education and training, but also promote undergraduate programs, which is, so to say, the next step when it comes then to university. And what our part will be, what was already mentioned here, to develop trainers for the companies, but also trainers for schools. So because every apprentice should have a trainer in order to consult them, especially what to do in the company, how the workflow is going on, etc. So these are the major aims here, but it just will start, and so we have the major task still in front of us. And last but not least, you may also could have seen it because we also placed it at the registration desk. Just this year we published in autumn a brochure about skilled workers, because we think we see it more in a general view. Of course, vocational education is an important part, but the overall topic should be to create workplaces, to create and to promote skilled workforce. And due to this, we also published this brochure. You can also take it with you and have a look inside. It's a I would say compendium. We have involved several companies there, so major companies. I made interviews with them, and they answered a few I would say important questions due to HR topics, to the future of workforce, and we have also 6 consulting companies from HR field which wrote some lines, some articles about recent topic, what's going on in the HR field, in the educational field, employee retention, and these kind of things. So that would be in brief. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Erhardt. Okay, this was the full overview of dual track education in Bulgaria, and the last section of the morning session will be a discussion with 2 young people studying at the Henry Ford Professional School. These are Tomatomov and Martin Garmidolov, 12th graders. Would you have enrolled had you known what is ahead of us? So would you have chosen this path? This has been my desire from the very beginning, although I had no idea what it would be like. But once our school was enrolled in the project, and every year we have professions days and events, and we had visitors from the companies, and the students from the 10th graders and 11th graders presented their workplaces to us. We had only heard about these terms, gas equipment, but back then, because we were too young. But this is how, through their information, we learned what this profession was all about. So what did you do? Different activities that are related to handling gas equipment. We observed how gas equipment should be handled. We learned about the hazards, about the risks, and shortly, this is a difficult but very interesting occupation. Do you work every day? No, only on Monday and Wednesday. The rest of the week you spend at school. That's right. What are the pros and cons? Up to you of having this organization of studying and working. When we are at school, we hear about things, but we don't know how they work. So this is why our in-company practice helps us see things and be able to practice it. It's very interesting, and it's a very good combination between theory and practice. What are the drawbacks? Well, every profession has challenges. Well, yes, I understand about the profession, but what about the form of education? What are its drawbacks? Well, it's dangerous, but there are very few drawbacks if we are extra careful. Do they allow you to work as their equals, or you are the kids that are slapped by the hands? No, we work with their tools, with their equipment. We do work, yeah. We are able to handle the equipment. So you perform real life tasks. Yes. Yes, we do real jobs. But some of the instructors trust us more than others, and this is because there are some hazardous activities that require more skills and more experience. Yes, we do perform real tasks. Is it a secret how much you get? If you have signed a non-disclosure agreement, don't say a word, but, well, we receive salaries based on the hours worked. So, do your parents know? Do they take the money away from you? Or it's only for you to spend? Well, it's our own money, so is it enough? Well, for us, I think it's fine. Would you promote this? Would you encourage other of your peers to get involved in that? Yes, indeed, because if they want to excel, it's compulsory to benefit from such projects, and once you have every ninth grader should consider DT option. So you're graduating now. What are your plans for the future? How do you plan to continue? Will you apply for university? We will continue working because we have started on this career path, and it's very important to do it, to continue working, and we should continue. We will continue. We are almost graduating, and we may continue studying, but it will be in this sector. Thank you, Mr. Tolov. Thank you, Mr. Garmidolov.